Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Techno Talks here. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing something I haven't done in a very long time, and that's going to be a speed test comparison between two devices right here. So on the left side, we have the Google Pixel 6 Pro, and on the right, we have the OnePlus 10 Pro. So it's really interesting comparing these as they are basically going head to head in the market right now, basically the same price and basically the same software. As OnePlus's software is very similar to the original Google software that we have, the original Android that we have on the Pixel devices. So let's go ahead and actually test this out and compare these two devices. So they do have some slight differences. The Google Pixel 6 Pro does have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and the OnePlus 10 Pro right here, the 128 gigabyte variant, does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. So this does have some less RAM, but we do also get virtual RAM with this, which is something Samsung also implemented as well. So basically it takes some of the storage and it uses it as RAM. I'm not sure how well that works or how efficient it is, as you can't really notice it from day-to-day usage, but it does have it, so I feel like it might give it an advantage in that way. So let's go ahead and begin. This right here, again, before we begin, one more thing. This has the Google Tensor chip, so it's their in-house chipset that Google has made, and this has the Snapdragon 888 chipset. So these chipsets both perform really well. They're both flagship level chipsets, so it's going to be interesting to see how these compare. So I'm going to go ahead and start up with a boot up test. So let's go ahead and boot these up at the same time, and just to see which one boots up faster. Not really sure if this affects much, but I always do this just in case. So in 3, 2, 1. All right, set these down. Let's go ahead and wait out for them. So it seems like the Pixel is loading in faster. We do get a couple more animations on the Pixel compared to the OnePlus, but that is okay. So the Pixel 6 Pro loads in faster. Let's wait up for the OnePlus 10 Pro, and there it is. The OnePlus 10 Pro is right here. So only a couple second difference, really not going to affect anybody, and people usually don't really turn their phones off. I don't think I usually turn my phone off at all. I just set it on my bedside table and let it charge until the morning. I never turn it off. So this really isn't too big of a comparison. You can't really compare it between these two, but I just go ahead and do them anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and open both these devices up and just wait for them to load in everything. Once that's ready, we'll move on to the apps. So we'll be back in a sec. Alright, so both these devices have been booted up now, and they are ready to begin. So before we go on to the apps, let's go ahead and test out the fingerprint sensors on both of these devices. So I'm going to go ahead and open the display on both of these and place my fingers on them in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so it seems like the OnePlus 10 Pro is a tad bit faster, but again, not too big of a difference. So 3, 2, 1. Little placement issue right there. All right, so one more test. Third time's the charm in 3, 2, 1. Oops. So the Pixel didn't notice it this time, and pin required for additional security. So it did notice it, but it does want me to put in my pin, and that is perfectly fine. So again, they both work really well. The OnePlus 10 Pro does seem a little faster compared to the Pixel 6 Pro's fingerprint sensor. However, the main thing that really matters is going to be security. If they're both secure, then it is perfectly fine with me. Might affect some people, but I'm perfectly fine with it. So let's go ahead and move on to our apps. So first up, in our first row, we have a couple stock apps. As you can see, we have our calculator, calendar, clock, and camera app. And then we go down, we have some social media apps, and then we go into some shopping apps, YouTube and Starbucks as well included. And then we have 4 games. And in the end, I'm gonna go back through these apps just for the RAM test, just to see how well the RAM management is and if it keeps it open. And then after that, for the final thing, we're going to be doing a Geekbench test just to see the scores on these and compare the scores between the Tensor and the Snapdragon 888 chipset. So let's go ahead and begin. So let's begin with our calculator. I'm going to try and make this as accurate as possible, but it might not be. So if you do find an issue with it, just let me know in the comments down below. So let's go ahead and begin with the calculator in 3, 2, 1. So it seems like the OnePlus 10 Pro loaded in faster. So calendar in 3, 2, 1. All right, so the Pixel 6 Pro did launch it up faster again, and the clock in 3, 2, 1. So that's going to be the OnePlus 10 Pro. Go to our camera in 3, 2, 1. All right, so loaded in faster on the Pixel 6 Pro for the camera. And now let's move on to our social media apps. So Instagram in 3, 2, 1. All right, that seemed like, okay, that was very similar. It opened up the last section left on this phone first. However, they both loaded in the same feed at the same time. So let's go ahead and get out. Let me go ahead and bring up the brightness real quick. Now let's move on to Twitter in 3, 2, 1. All right, that seems like the Pixel 6 Pro loaded in the newest tweets first. So let's move on to Groupon in 3, 2, 1. Again, that's going to be the same for both of these. Let's move on to ESPN in 3, 2, 1. All right, seems like the Pixel 6 Pro takes it in compared to the OnePlus 10 Pro. And again, these are connected to the same Wi-Fi. So we are kind of doing a Wi-Fi test as well, maybe, just to compare the antenna bands used on both of these. So now let's move on to Amazon. I'm not gonna be saying 3, 2, 1 each time. I feel like that might bore you guys. So let me go ahead and begin right away. So Amazon. All right. So that was the Pixel OnePlus 10 Pro this time. Loaded in the final section first. eBay. All right, again, that was the same for both of these. So it kind of seemed like the OnePlus 10 Pro, however, it loaded in everything at the same time. So now let's move on to YouTube. Boom. And here we have the Pixel 6 Pro loading in YouTube first compared to the OnePlus 10 Pro. And let's go move on to Starbucks now. All right, so that's gonna go to the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now let's move on to our games. So our games may vary between these two phones a lot. The normal apps, very minimal differences between each other, like millisecond differences. So day-to-day usage with these kinds of apps, with social media, shopping, YouTube, content, then you're not gonna have an issue. They're both gonna be the same. But now let's move on to our games to see if there actually is a difference. So Smashy Road 1 to 2, let's start up with some light games. All right, seems like the Pixel 6 Pro, that's gonna go to the Pixel 6 Pro. The OnePlus 10 Pro, not behind it by too much. Now let's move on to Temple Run, another lighter game. And let's see, so the animation's loading in faster on the Pixel 6 Pro. Now we just gotta wait, so loading, and it's still loading on the OnePlus 10 Pro, and the OnePlus 10 Pro finally loads in. So the Pixel 6 Pro is gonna take it again, as you can see, and we'll just go ahead and click play, why not? So they've actually changed up Temple Run a lot. I haven't actually played this game in a long time. So they're probably gonna both perform the same. You're probably not gonna be having too many differences between these two, as they both do have flagship level chipsets and hardware. So Asphalt 9, a little heavier game right here. So let's go ahead and begin. Boom. All right, Game Loft logo came up first on the Pixel 6 Pro. Both loading in right now. Let's see which one loads in, and that's gonna go to the Pixel 6 Pro. So the OnePlus 10 Pro is still loading, taking a little while, but it is not far behind. So again, with the games, the Pixel 6 Pro does seem like it's outperforming the OnePlus 10 Pro. So let's move on to Dead Trigger 2, and boom. All right. So loaded up the home screen first on the Pixel 6 Pro, and now let's click play at the same time. 3, 2, 1. And let's see which one loads in first. Seems like the Pixel 6 Pro is loading in first. Just gotta wait for the final animation. And let's see. All right, so the Pixel 6 Pro does take it. However, this game, you really didn't see too much of a difference. So now let's go ahead and move on to our RAM management test. So the Pixel 6 Pro did take the app opening test. Just opened it faster on most of the apps, and then on the games it definitely took the lead right there. It opened up all the apps, all the games faster than the OnePlus 10 Pro. But again, you can't really base your purchase off of these speed tests, as phones are getting really close to each other at this point, and so it's going to be really hard to actually see some difference between devices nowadays, especially flagship devices. So you really can't base it off of this, but for the people that want to see it, I still go ahead and do these speed tests. So now let's go to our calculator. So no reloading there. Calendar, no reloading. That was just loading up the calendar, as it's a Google app. It syncs between all devices. Clock, again, no reload, so shouldn't really see a reload on these. Camera app, the only thing that happened here, again, that's not a reload. The camera was just opening itself up as the camera lens closes once you're out of the app. Now Instagram, no reload issues there. Twitter, again, no reload issues. Groupon. All right, so that just reloaded on the OnePlus 10 Pro. So the Pixel 6 Pro is ahead right now. So ESPN, again, the OnePlus 10 Pro did reload ESPN. For some reason, it can't keep up, and again, that might be due to the fact that the Pixel 6 Pro has 6 more gigabytes of RAM compared to the OnePlus 10 Pro. Let's go to Amazon. Again, a reload on there. The Pixel 6 Pro is holding up still. eBay, no reloads. It's really nice. YouTube, a reload on the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now let's move on to Starbucks. Again, another reload. Well, actually, I'm not sure if that was a reload. I'm not really sure, but seemed like it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call that a reload. Now let's go to our games and see if the Pixel 6 Pro or the OnePlus 10 Pro kept any of the games open. So Smashy Road, Pixel 6 Pro does have the game open, and we're waiting on the OnePlus 10 Pro to load that back in. And I feel like these 3 games, the OnePlus 10 Pro is gonna have to reload these games. So Temple Run 2, still on the Pixel 6 Pro, it's still continuing, and then the OnePlus 10 Pro is still loading it in. So some slight issues here. Seems like the OnePlus 10 Pro can't keep up all the apps open with the 8 gigabytes of RAM that it has. Asphalt 9, again, I feel like it's gonna reload right here. Actually, that might be a, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if that was a reload. Just leave a comment down below if you think that was a reload for the Pixel 6 Pro, but that was a definite reload for the OnePlus 10 Pro. So let's go ahead and exit out. Now, our final game, Dead Trigger 2. And no reloads on the Pixel 6 Pro. As you can see, we can resume our game. We're still in the game. However, on the OnePlus 10 Pro, it did reload and we had to relaunch the game. All right, so now that we're done with the app test, I can go ahead and say that the Pixel 6 Pro is definitely faster. Launch, it was faster. Fingerprint, it was a little slower, but very minimal. App launching, it was faster again in most of the apps. And then for the RAM management test, it definitely beat out the OnePlus 10 Pro, as the Pixel 6 Pro basically kept open all of the apps that it had. I believe it had to reload on one of the games. Again, I'm not sure with that, but other than that, no issues on the Pixel 6 Pro. So let's go ahead and move on to our Geekbench test. Before that, let's go ahead and close out all of our apps and make sure they're all closed out. Clear all. And let's move on to our Geekbench test. So, Geekbench 5, we're gonna go ahead and do a CPU benchmark on here, and I'll go ahead and get back to y'all once this benchmark is over. So I'm gonna run the CPU benchmark, and this shouldn't take long, but I don't wanna bore y'all here, so I'm gonna get back to y'all once it is over. All right, so both the speed tests are now done, the benchmark test, and here we have the scores laid out in front of us. So right away, we can tell that the OnePlus 10 Pro definitely takes the multi-score, and that's because you got 3,100, almost 3,200 points right here, and you have 2,600 points on the Pixel 6 Pro. So that is a pretty big difference, actually. That's that's like 600 points difference right there. But for the single core score, the Pixel 6 Pro actually takes it. You get 890 on the Pixel 6 Pro, and you're getting 865 on the OnePlus 10 Pro. So these names are getting really confusing and really long now. I feel like they should start shortening them out as Pixel 6 Pro, OnePlus 10 Pro. We're probably gonna get like an iPhone 13 Pro Ultra Max. So it's kind of getting annoying and confusing, but I'm fine with it. So from this, we can tell the OnePlus 10 Pro definitely takes the benchmark test, as there isn't too big of a difference between the single core. However, we do have a large difference on the multi-core. But as we saw in the video, performance-wise, the Pixel 6 Pro did beat it on all of the tests except for the fingerprint test, and that is due to the scanner that we have and not the general software and not the software and hardware, I guess, using each other. So that will basically wrap it up. So I hadn't done these in a long time, and this was actually really interesting and really nice too. So if you do like these videos, if you do like the speed test comparison videos, then make sure to leave a like down below. And if you do support the channel, and if you want to support it more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as that helps out a lot. So again, that'll basically wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and see y'all in the next one.